Rain hammered down like needles from the night sky, slicing through the silence of Ethan Cole's grand estate. Inside, the lights glowed soft and golden, but the man seated behind the mahogany desk felt none of its warmth. Ethan, CEO of Cole Enterprises, had spent his life building an empire, one deal, one sacrifice at a time. Yet tonight, he felt that strange emptiness that even billions couldn't fill. He loosened his tie and reached for a glass of scotch when the sharp echo of the doorbell cut through the rain. He frowned. No one ever came to his home unannounced, especially not at midnight. When he opened the massive front door, his world stopped. A little girl stood there, her hair drenched, her small body trembling under the weight of the storm. Mud streaked her dress, and her lips quivered as she hugged a tattered teddy bear tightly to her chest. "Please, sir," she whimpered, her voice breaking. "They hurt my mom. She's dying." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. For a second, he thought he'd misheard. "What did you say?" "They hurt her," the girl cried, tears mixing with rainwater on her cheeks. "She was just trying to help someone, but bad men hit her. She's not moving anymore." He knelt in front of her, his hands trembling. "Where is she?" "In the alley, near the cafe with the red sign," the girl sobbed. "Please, come, I don't know what to do." Without hesitation, Ethan grabbed his coat and lifted her into his arms, shielding her from the rain. As his car sped through the stormy streets, Ethan's heart pounded harder than it ever had before. The girl guided him through winding lanes until she pointed to a narrow alley lit by a flickering streetlight. And there she was. A woman lay crumpled on the wet ground, blood pooling beneath her, her breathing faint. Ethan rushed to her side, lifting her head gently, and when he brushed her hair back, the world tilted. It was Grace Parker, the woman he once loved with every fiber of his being. The one he'd walked away from to chase success. Her lips were pale, her pulse weak. "Grace," he whispered, his voice cracking. The little girl knelt beside him, clutching Grace's hand. "Mommy, please wake up." Ethan looked between them, and saw it. The same brown eyes, the same soft curl in their hair. His heart stopped. She wasn't just any child. She was his. Ethan sat in the hospital corridor, his expensive suit still soaked from the rain, but he didn't care. The only thing echoing in his mind was Grace's face, pale, fragile, and far too still. Every minute that passed felt like an eternity. His fists clenched as the little girl, Lily, slept on the bench beside him, her head resting on his arm, clutching that same worn teddy bear. He had called in the best doctors, demanded the finest care, but no amount of money could buy him peace while Grace's life hung by a thread. When the doctor finally emerged from the emergency room, Ethan shot to his feet. "She's stable now," the doctor said, exhaustion in his tone. "But she's weak. She'll need time and support to recover." Relief flooded through Ethan's chest. "Thank you," he breathed, his voice thick. He carried Lily into Grace's room, her tiny fingers still holding his sleeve. Grace looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, tubes and monitors surrounding her. When her eyes fluttered open, confusion clouded her gaze until she focused on him. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice rough. He stepped closer, his heart in his throat. "Grace, it's me. You're safe now." Her lips trembled. Why are you here?" He took a shaky breath. "Because your daughter knocked on my door tonight. Because she said you were dying." His voice cracked on the last word. Grace's eyes widened, then softened as she looked toward Lily, now asleep in the chair. "You met her." "I did," Ethan whispered. She's ours, isn't she?" Grace turned her face away, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I didn't want to burden you, Ethan. You chose your world, your company, your name. I didn't think you'd want us." His heart twisted. "Grace, I would have given everything to know about her. About you. I was blind." He reached out, carefully taking her hand. "Let me make it right. Please." Grace hesitated, her fingers trembling in his. "She's all I have, and she's all I want," he said softly. "Both of you are." In the quiet that followed, Grace's tears fell freely, not from pain, but from the sudden, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they could start again. Outside, dawn broke, painting the sky gold, the first light of a new beginning for all three of them. The next morning, soft sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, washing the sterile white room in a golden glow. Grace stirred slightly, feeling the weight of warmth beside her. Lily, curled up and sleeping soundly, her small hand still gripping Ethan's. The sight tugged painfully at Grace's heart. It looked so natural, so right, and yet it was everything she had spent years trying not to imagine. Ethan looked up from the chair where he had spent the entire night. His eyes were red-rimmed, his tie long discarded. "You should rest," he murmured. "The doctor said you'll need at least a week before you're strong enough to go home." Grace's brow furrowed. "Home, my home," he said simply. "Yours now. Both of you." Her heart clenched. "Ethan, I can't just walk into your world again. I'm not the woman I was. I've been cleaning offices, waiting tables, struggling to feed our daughter. We don't belong in your mansion." Ethan's voice softened. "Grace, that house hasn't felt like a home in years. You and Lily are the only ones who could ever make it one." Grace looked away, swallowing hard. "You're saying that now because you feel guilty?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I'm saying it because I finally understand what I threw away. I thought I was chasing success, but all I did was run from the only thing that mattered." A silence stretched between them, full of pain, regret, and something else that neither dared to name. Just then, Lily stirred, blinking sleepily. "Mommy," she murmured. Grace stroked her daughter's hair. "I'm right here, baby." Lily turned to Ethan and smiled shyly. "You didn't leave." Ethan's chest tightened. "No, sweetheart," he said softly. "I'm not going anywhere." She studied him for a long moment, then reached out her tiny hand and placed it over his. "Mommy says you're my daddy." Grace froze, eyes wide, but Ethan only smiled, a trembling, tearful smile. "She's right," he whispered, his voice breaking. "And if you'll let me, I'd like to be your daddy for real, forever." Lily grinned sleepily, leaning against him. "Okay, but can we have pancakes tomorrow?" Ethan laughed through his tears. "As many as you want, sweetheart." And in that fragile moment, something long broken between them began to heal. 2 weeks later, Grace walked slowly through the wide glass doors of Ethan's mansion, her hand clasped tightly around Lily's. The last time she'd stood before this house, she had been a woman in love, and broken. Now, she was cautious, uncertain, but the warmth in Ethan's eyes as he held the door open made her heart tremble in a way she thought she'd forgotten. Lily gasped, her little voice echoing through the vast marble foyer. "Mommy, it's like a castle." Ethan chuckled, kneeling to her height. "It's just a house, sweetheart. But it's missing something, laughter. I think you can help with that." Lily grinned and ran off to explore, her laughter filling the hall. Grace stood still, watching her daughter run freely for the first time in what felt like years. "You didn't have to do all this, Ethan," she said softly. "The doctors, the security, this house, we'll pay you back somehow." He turned to her, his expression gentle but firm. "Grace, I'm not doing this to repay anything. I'm doing it because I should have been there all along." She met his gaze, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "People don't change that easily." He stepped closer. "Maybe not, but losing you taught me what really matters. I've spent years surrounded by everything I ever wanted, except love." His voice faltered. "You were the only thing real in my life, Grace. You and Lily." Her eyes filled with tears. "You hurt me, Ethan. I don't know if I can ever forget that." He nodded, his voice low. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I've changed. Not with promises, but with actions." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then, a small voice broke the silence, Lily's. She stood by the staircase, holding a picture frame she had found on the table. "Look, Mommy, it's us." Grace turned, and her breath caught. Inside the frame was a new photo, taken just that morning at the hospital. The three of them, smiling, whole. Ethan smiled softly. "I had it printed. I thought it should be the first thing hung here, a reminder of what's really worth fighting for." Grace's lips trembled as she whispered, "You kept your promise." He took her hand gently. "And I'll keep it every day." For the first time in years, Grace believed him. And for the first time ever, their little family finally felt complete.